if you are working in a business that is authentic and you feel comfortable enough to share new ideas, you can actually boost innovation. I mean, we all know that these great ideas, great innovation ideas always kind of like seem crazy at the beginning. But those are the ones who make the magic and work.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey guys, it's Erin here. I'm the co-host of the show and the one that does most of the interviews. And I'm excited to bring you a special episode with Maritza Gé, who is one of our Authenticity Award judges. We actually got our shit together this year and added real judges to our Authenticity Awards, which are something we've been doing for 3 years and just given ourselves permission to baby step every year closer and closer to our big goal around having an authenticity index. So we talk about that a little bit. And I wanted to have her on. She's the executive assistant to the CEO at ATS Corporation, a company that I did a keynote for earlier this year. And it's so funny because when I first met her, we talk about it on the interview, like I thought it was going to be very, I don't want to say transactional because that's not really who I am, but I couldn't believe how much she inspired me just like from the minute we got on the phone, from the minute we hit go. And she does that with this as well. So, I didn't, we were just sort of chatting and I was like, okay, no, our listeners need to hear this because she's so, she's just really inspiring and great to listen to. And so some of the things you'll hear are, first of all, why she sees so much power in seeing yourself as small. A really profound sort of reframe that I can't wait for you to hear. She also talks about her unique way of celebrating her son's birthday, which quite frankly was the thing that drew me into her so quickly when I met her back in February or March. She really bucks the norm and does things differently and authentically. We also talk about what most people get wrong about working with the CEO. She does, sit in that top suite and sees things all the time. So it's a great, I think, vantage point and some lessons that you can take from her. We also talk about her thoughts on self-acceptance and where to get it. And then she also shares her powerful tip for making work suck less. I think you'll just enjoy her authenticity, her articulation, her reflection. And she's really, I told her afterwards, she should be a motivational speaker. So without further ado, enjoy the conversation I had with Maritza Gé. I went to Whistler in April, which was absolutely incredible.
Such a beautiful place. Oh, I love going to places like that because I feel so small in comparison to nature.
Yeah.
And I love feeling the greatness of nature because living in a city, I was going to say rarely get to see that, but it's like you never get to like feel that. There's a place in the Rocky Mountains, I think it's called Kananaskis. It's a resort, and they're like right cradled in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I was doing a side visit once there, and I sat down for coffee one morning, and you literally, when you just looked up out of the window, all you see is the Rocky Mountains. There's no traffic, there's nothing. And there's that silence, the powerful silence, and the huge mountain. And then there's you having a coffee, and you just feel, you put everything in perspective like, wow, what am I worrying about? You know what I mean? I love that.
I love that you say, I feel small, and you mean it in a
in a positive way.
Yeah. There's something so like profound about that.
Because, we live our lives. I don't know about Jamin. Let me know your thoughts. But we live this life where, like, the rat race type of situation where people are running all the time because it's like a constant hustle. And we feel the need to always be on top of our game. And like that pressure that, you have to be always bigger. And it's like, no, we're not. There's a lot going on in the world. We're just a tiny little part. Our planet is friggin' small. And so for me, it helps me to think about where I am in the big scheme of things, like, and then you have a big problem and you're like, oh my God, and you just like overwhelmed. And you just sit down for a second and you say, let me just zoom out here. And you do that mountain view that I'm just calling that right now. You do the mountain view and you're like, wait a minute. This is not a big deal. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
So we're just going to get right into, because I love that. How do you suggest people manufacture that mountain when they're not in the mountains? Yeah.
Yeah. And the beauty of that is that I think you don't have to be there. You don't have, because I mean, that's practically impossible, right? Not everybody will be there, but you can actually bring the mountain with you, whatever you need it. Just to be honest, find the peace, find yourself, find your space, whatever you are. We have that power. And I personally do that because I have learned that we're stronger than we can ever imagine. And we have the power to overcome anything if we want to. But we need to find that place, that mental space where you can actually grab that. You cannot grab it when you are overwhelmed in the middle of something and you're thinking, or you have three things on the go: kids in school, family problems, marriage, whatever, relationship issues, work problems. Your brain will not, because there is so much going on. There is so much noise. Find that mountain, because you can. And just find those 5 minutes, block your calendar, or actually stay, like step away, from your desk. Doesn't have to be, just outside of your house, and literally just focus. Because I think if you put yourself in perspective of, okay, this is the problem I have, and then start distancing yourself, like zoom out. How did it all start? What are the options? And block that noise. Just focus on that big problem that you think it's like the end of the world. Oh my goodness, I don't know how am I going to get out of this. And when you do that, you realize, like, wait a minute. It's not that big. I made it big.
It's so funny to hear you talk, because we just sort of jumped on, and the same thing happened when we first met, right?
He did, yeah, I remember.
Rita introduced us. I was getting ready to do a keynote talk for you guys.
I know.
Oh, you need to meet Maritza. She she does a lot of events. She's going to be helping with this event. Sort of think I'm getting on with this person that we're going to sort of talk through the logistics, and then inspire the crap out of me. And I would love for you. So same thing happened when we first met. I can't remember how it started, but I think it was probably right around your son's birthday. And I might have asked,
It was.
going. And you told me the story about not just your son's birthday this year, but a tradition. And I would love for you to tell our listeners about how you do birthdays differently.
Yeah, well, I also remember the time when we met, and I loved it because I think, as you said, we were supposed to be talking about, like schedules and logistics. And And we started, I think we started informally, greeting each other and introducing each other. And my birthday, my son's birthday was kind of like around the corner or had just passed, something like that. And then we just kind of like got into it. And I mentioned to you that the theme for this birthday, he turned 17, was believe. And then you said, "Oh, wait a minute, you have a theme." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I always have one." And then we kind of like talked about it. I think this is something that, and it started since he was very little. I want to make it more like a celebration of, what's the new year that is coming, right? Not just to leave it as just a kind of like just a celebration of, you go out for dinner or you have his friends over, and it's just that moment. I want to kind of like mark the beginning of this is a new year and there's so much you can do. And then I always try to pick a theme that relates to kind of like, the age, right? Like what are kind of like the milestones that you expect, but also based on my own experience, like looking back, like I try to think like how did I feel, then? Because, like there are difficult age, right? Like ages, like, teenagehood and all that. And, and I know the world has changed a lot since my time I now, but there are like always those common moments and situations that we go through in life as we grow and as we kind of like get to learn the world as it is. Um, so this one was belief because he is getting ready. He's gonna be doing his last senior year, and then he's gonna go into college, and he's got a couple of options that he's looking at as to what he potentially wants to study. And I always tell him, whatever you want to do and whatever you set yourself up to do in the future, you can. And there's going to be obstacles, but I'm like, don't expect the road to be like either flat or straight or all the doors will open as you pass. Um, it won't.
Hmm.
This is not how it's going to work. The world, it's a little bit more complex. But be prepared for that. Be prepared to have to knock on doors. And if the door doesn't open, you can like just believe in yourself. Like if you want it open, it will.
Mhm.
Because I just don't. I want him to know that he's a single child, but he's very independent. And as a mom, you always try to create that kind of like perfection around your kids. Like the time comes when they need that strength. They need that independence to emanate from them and have that belief within themselves because they need to. They need to believe in order to make things happen. And so I'm always like, this is kind of like what we're focusing on. Like, I want you to know, because when you get into like this web of colleges and tuition and, right, there's all this myth. And I don't want him to, I don't want that image to impact his, what he sees for himself. I want him to be able to see clearly where do you want to be?
Mm.
Focus on that. This is where I want to be. And then you can navigate that web of the nuances of the process and tuitions and stuff like that. But you need to have that belief within you because that is the force that you need to get you there.
Mm.
It's not going to be easy, and there's going to be a lot of things and failure, and it's along the way. That's fine. We fall and we get up. That's it. Just always believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. And it's hard for us as parents too when they want something and they don't get it or whatever reason. And I don't want that to be a negative thing or something that will deter him from pursuing where he wants to be. And I'm like, there's going to be a lot of those along the way, but we're going to get there. That's the attitude that I want for him.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
yeah.
I get of all the years, and I'm sure you can't remember all of them, but you said you started this when you were younger. What was the word where you're like, I think that one was the most appropriate, had the biggest impact on him?
Well, yes. So we have had different themes, obviously. I remember, learn, absorb, trust. But there was one, and that was, when he, I think, teenagehood. As you know, that is a wild ride for everyone. We all have memories of that time, and it can be tough, it can be confusing. And we went with like, embrace your uniqueness because we're all different. And certain subjects at school were not as easy for him as others. And you may look different, or you may not be necessarily into whatever it is that it's, the popular kids of the school are. And that can make you feel like, well, why am I not the same? Why am I not, like to or either hang out or do certain things? And I went through that myself. And it's, being yourself, it's very hard. Have to be strong. But it depends where you are, right? Like, some settings are harder than others. Um, and I wanted him to know that, you know, embrace who you are, because that is where the beauty is.
Mm.
We don't need to look alike. Actually, we should actually strive for like not looking alike, because like the world will be very boring if that's the case. But we are all so different. And the beauty lies in the fact that we all have different strengths, different weaknesses, and that we don't look alike. I can find what I don't have in another person, and I can admire that versus, oh, you're not like me, there must be something wrong with you. No, it doesn't have to be that way. It's in that sharing or learning and accepting, right? Accepting that, I rock at this. I'm not too good at that. I might as well, right? Like get on it and learn, or I don't necessarily have to look alike. And I think self-acceptance is so important, especially, starting at an early age, because how do you build that self-awareness and like, I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I don't have to compromise to fit any box. I don't.
Was there a moment for you that was defining at all in that, whether it was in your childhood or in the workplace? Because I think there's also how you sort of accept who you are in everyday life, and then the workplace adds a whole another layer with hierarchy.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
gender and all of that. Do you remember, was there a mentor or a moment or a situation where you sort of the self-acceptance of you, any uniqueness you had really came to light for you?
I think since an early age, I was always very self-aware of, what I want to be in. I was always very comfortable with who I am. I have had many mentors along the way that I remember my mother, for example, she was a very strong woman. And many times I could go back to her and ask questions. She's like, what do you want? Because this is your life ahead of you, right? It's like you can listen to other people, but always, always, always listen to your inner voice. Because you have to be happy, first of all, above all things, in order for you to be able to be who you are and enjoy your path. And she was always a great example to me. And that's exactly what I was saying. It's hard. It's hard to set and sail your boat and, be like, this is my journey and I'm going to do it. And you think it's going to be all good and the winds will favor your journey. And it's not, because, and especially, in the corporate world, if you bring that in the context of the corporate world where I have been for over 20 years now, right? So there is always, different, it's a different dynamics, right? And it depends on, the company, on the industry, or the setting itself, and the kind of group that you are. But I've always decided that, I'm comfortable with who I am. I just follow my values, And I just don't compromise. This is the way, I've been all my life. It's like I just don't like to compromise either my integrity or my ethics or my values. And again, sometimes you're kind of like an outcast in a way, in certain things in life and at different stages in your life. But as long as you know that the path that you have set for yourself is the right one, or you believe in that, um, then that's it. I just don't compromise.
There's a question we usually ask. I usually ask towards the end, but I want to ask it now in the context. So, we call it buck that, and it's sort of the similar concept. Like, do you have a story about a time when you did buck the norm? You said, buck that, I'm going to do it my own way or whatever. And something great turned out because of that bucking the norm.
Well, I think I have had many bad moments, actually. I was kind of a rebel growing up. But I guess right now, that example actually that I was mentioning about the defining moment in life when you have to, what am I going to study? What am I going to do? At the moment that my son is approaching now. And I had a little bit of pressure from my family to, we think this is what you should be doing. You go to school, you get married, you have kids, and that's kind of like not what I had planned for me. Like at least not on that time. Like I wanted to spend more time doing other things and dedicating time for myself and do things that I wanted to do. So I just decided that I didn't go with, like with medicine. I didn't go with going the way that was kind of like set out that this is where you're going. I decided to go with languages, which is something that I always enjoyed and I liked. And there was some times that was not well received. However, after a short while, I got some members of my family, that came and like, we're so proud of you because you booked that. You didn't care. They said it on their own words, obviously, but not that I didn't think it was going to happen, but I was happy to see that in the end, being authentic to who you are and staying the course, like I know that this is the right thing for me, actually pays off. And you may go through some moments that are not necessarily, grandiose, or it's not what you expected. The journey won't be easy sailing until you get there, but that's fine. That's fine. So,
yeah, I love it. Hey guys, Erin here, and I have some exciting news. So I have been working on my second book, The 50% Rule, for the last few years, and it's now available for pre-order. Here's the truth. I am totally obsessed with this book. And the reasons are, first, because of the rule. The rule completely has changed my life. I use it on freaking everything. And I've used it helping countless others. So the rule is tested. It is powerful. I've been using it for 5 years. But honestly, that probably wouldn't have been enough to write a book about it. It would have gotten kind of boring. What actually happened is, over the last couple of years, what I started to see was that this rule was actually the secret, the backbone, the formula for so many people's success, like famous people and things and companies like Hamilton and John Madden and Weird Al Yankovic and the Savannah Bananas and Shopify and all these. And so what happened is I realized that this rule isn't just, a self-help rule to get over your problems, which is where it started, but it's actually the thing that can help you go from underdog to unmatched. And I've seen it with many others. So I tell a bazillion stories in there. There's advice, there's research, there's, of course, snarky wit, and a little salty language, of course. I'd say it's sort of like a Malcolm Gladwell meets Jen Sincero book. So to get your copy of the 50% rule, so you don't forget. I know it's kind of weird, pre-order, but you can do that now. You can just head over to Amazon and look for the 50% rule, or you can check it out in the show notes below. Can't wait to share the rule with you. So I want to get a little bit selfish for our audience. You sit in a unique position. You're the senior executive assistant to the CEO of a global company. You interact day in and day out, I'm sure, with the CEO and the rest of the C-suite. Give us a bird's eye view. And I know every C-suite, every CEO is different. But the first question, I wanted to ask a couple of questions. What is the one thing that you think that people sort of get wrong about the CEO or interacting with the CEO that you can see from your perspective, that, being closer?
Well, I guess it depends. In every case, obviously, it's different because every individual is different and have their own personality and preferences. I think one thing that probably always people get wrong is that there is an ego layer there, and interactions sometimes can be biased or nuanced based on whatever perceptions you have of that person based on their title, because that's kind of like how people see other people. It's, they see their title and then they have this preconceived notion of who this person, oh, he's this, he must be, or she should be, or this is probably, and then they come and see this person, with already a preconceived notion. But I think it's important to get to know the real person and not having any sort of either judgment or having any bias, because in the end, it's not our title who defines any one of us. At our core, we're human beings, and we all have problems, and we all have a story behind us, and we have our families, and we have our careers. But anyway, in the end, it's, you're a human being. So always try to see the human versus the title. And I think that helps with relationship. You just come from that human side versus starting an interaction with the lens of where you sit in an office kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You also do a lot of events. That's sort of your thing. And it sounds like your CEO and your company sort of puts a lot of emphasis around events. What is it that you love about them? And what are some thoughts or tips, unique things that you've done? Right? Because I'm all about not doing normal. So if you've done so many of these as your thing, what are some like unique things that you've done that you'd love people to consider as they're trying to, increase engagement, increase sales, all the things that you do around the events, the purpose of them?
Yes, event planning, it's a big part of what I do. And as a global company, we not only have the opportunity to spend face-to-face time with each other, we're geographically distant based on, we have businesses in different parts of the world. So we do put a lot of emphasis in making the most of the opportunity to have our global team together and bringing them, to be in one place and sharing best practices and talking about strategy and growth. And I love that because sometimes I've only seen the name of someone, by, in an email or something like that. And I've been, exchanging correspondence and communications with this person for a while. And then you get to see the actual person, and it's just, the whole dynamics change. And it not only helps with that relationship, like it's not the same by email when you have an opportunity to just have a coffee, while you're waiting for the next session to start, and you talk about your family, or you talk about something just trivial, but then you find a common interest or a connection. And then next time I have to email that person for, business related question, it's a totally different dynamics. It's like, oh, hey, I remember you. So how was that game? Right. Or anything that I was talking with that person the last time. So it does help. So it's all about that, finding the opportunity to build that interaction. And we always like to do, like make the most of the time together. I guess one thing that we have implemented, it's something very simple actually, but in our name badges, we always try to add, and I think I may have mentioned this to you last time we talked, what your passion is, or what is something that, like, talk to me about. I think that was the last one we did. And then there was one time that we did what your passion is. And it can be business, but it can also be personal. And it's just a simple thing. But then the first thing you look at when you see that person, because they have to have their name badges all the time when they are on, they get to see that, some people like gardening, or some people like, fitness or kickboxing, or I don't know, so you're like, oh, you like woodworking, like me too. And then you start building those connections. And again, it doesn't take any extra resources. It's just something simple that you can do, but allows people to get to know each other. And it breaks down a little bit that first, not everyone is comfortable in large size groups, or they are not as comfortable breaking up a conversation, opening up a dialogue. And that kind of like helps people to like, oh, I didn't realize you actually love dogs.
Yeah.
Me too. And just a simple thing. And it has worked out well. People like it, and it just helps a lot. So we also love doing team building activities, just to not be, necessarily in, business sessions. Or we also have, a really great breakout sessions, but, making the time for like bringing them out of sight of where the event is taking place, taking time for team building and helping to build that rapport with each other. So though that kind of thing have worked really well.
I love it. I would imagine you're Canadian based, so you also probably have like the Oilers versus the Canucks versus the Maple Leafs, and things could probably,
Oh yeah, sports
hopefully
is a
chairs
big
don't get
one.
thrown.
Yeah, sports is always, always, always a big one. So, and yeah, there are some hardcore fans, from different teams in the same group. So always good, but it just helps that to build that friendly competition, or dialogue between colleagues. But yeah, most I think from anything, what I really like is the opportunity that the event brings for people that are geographically distant to really just be there for a couple of days in person and see and get to meet the person more than anything, right? Because otherwise you just see a name or a title again, and your communications are more business focused. It's these this opportunity of being with that person and get to see you, for who you are. I love that, and I think it helps a lot. And I have seen that. I have seen that personally. Like the relationship, it's totally different, another level after that.
Yeah.
Nothing replaces in person. I mean, with COVID, right? We all had to pivot to that virtual world that was kind of like new to all of us. But you can't, that in person interaction and reaction that comes with meeting the real person, that can't take that away.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I would be remiss not to use a little bit of this time. I think when this airs, we'll only have a few days left for nominations for awards. But
Yes.
Maritza is one of our 4 judges, our inaugural judges we do Authenticity Awards here at Be Authentic Inc. every year. And it really culminates in selection and announcements and celebration on National Authenticity Day in August. First of all, thank you for doing that. We've got some really cool nominations coming in.
Love it.
Not that I like to talk about him before, but I think one of my favorites that came in the other day around a company called First Wrestling, and the nominator was actually somebody from Mall of America in Minnesota. You've probably heard of the Mall of America, the big Minnesota-based mall. And they recommended or nominated
Yeah.
First Wrestling that they've hired to come in to do events at Mall of America.
That's amazing.
And they're very authentic. They've got rainbow flags. They have all, and I was just like,
I love
gosh,
it.
I'm so excited. So I'm excited for you guys to get handed over those to select. But I guess I would ask you, what does authenticity, mean for you in the workplace? We've obviously circled around it and sort of your uniqueness, but what would you want people to know, but maybe they're not thinking about in terms of authenticity and how they go about sort of their work day?
I think actually this initiative of you guys, like the recognizing the authenticity index, as you call it for workplaces, it's such a great initiative, right? And I think it's vital. It helps to not only build trust with your employees, but also it helps with your reputation and brand identity. Like you want to be recognized, for being an authentic business. Not only can cultivate loyal customers and increase revenue by driving more business. I mean, who doesn't want to work with a business that is authentic? But also, it can increase also retention, employee retention, and bring in more new talent. If you are working in a business that is authentic and you feel comfortable enough to share new ideas, you can actually boost innovation. I mean, we all know that these great innovation ideas always kind of like seem crazy at the beginning. But those are the ones who make the magic and work. And it's because someone believed in that person and allowed that person to be like, okay, let's keep trying. Yeah. What else can we do?
Let's
Believe. We're back to the belief and bring those ideas with you. And employees feel comfortable to like, this is a workplace that foster employee engagement and create a strong, differentiated brand identity where I can come with my ideas and I will be heard. I love that, right? So, I mean, it leads to improved communication. It builds sustainable success. So again, like, it's great. Who doesn't want to work with an authentic business?
So I'm curious, if it's a no-brainer, let's call it, right? Like all those things you articulated are so true, internal, external. What do you think is the number one thing holding back so many companies from being more authentic internally and externally?
That's a good question. I honestly trying to think what could be something that keeps the company from being authentic. To me, the way I see it is that being authentic is the way. Like, to be honest, I can't think of like, why couldn't you? That's just a question I have for those people because, yeah, why couldn't you? Why wouldn't you be open? Why? I mean, it's better. It's best for the business. It reflects your true self, your true identity. When you're authentic, you don't need to worry about the image because you are who you are. Yeah. So you don't need to worry about keeping a facade. Well, unless you're lying. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Why couldn't you? It's the question that they should be asking themselves.
Hey, did you know that August 16th is National Roller Coaster Day? It's so ridiculous. I freaking hate roller coasters. So whatever. But it is also National Authenticity Day on August 16th. And here's the coolest thing about National Authenticity Day. Besides, us being obsessed with authenticity, you can actually make someone else's day. And you don't get to do this very often. Every year, we, The Authentic Inc., the company that's behind this podcast, sponsors what we call the National Authenticity Awards. And it culminates on National Authenticity Day. And that's just when we recognize leaders, everyday workers, and companies that inspire the crap out of others with their authenticity. And you should totally nominate someone. I mean, can you think of a better way to give back to someone you work with than putting them on the grandstand of the authenticity goats? It's cheap, it's free, and it's such a great thing to do. So to nominate someone or a company, it's easy peasy. You just go to nationalauthenticity.day.com and click on the link in the upper left-hand corner. Nominate them now. So stop listening, go nominate.
You know what I love? I love your sincere, like, perplexion on why people don't do it, because I think that,
Exactly.
right? And of course, I think about this all day, every day, because that's what I do. My opinion is, unfortunately, I think we're taught, especially in schools, to do things right? Like to get the answer is C, we need to get a 96%. We need to get things right. And unfortunately, when we get in the workplace, I think that same sentiment is
Model.
there. And so then the question is, well, what is the right answer? And if you look at people before you that are, writing very like formal emails or being all sort of tight, right? And so I think it's easy to say, oh, much like I've done all my life, I need to get an A, quote unquote, on this, and to get an A, I need to follow what everybody else is doing. And so I think there's just some unlearning, right? And there's some work that it takes to go again.
Learning. That's
that
a key
formula.
word there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I agree with that, actually. I'm glad that you shared your reflection on that, because as you say, this is your life. You think about this every day. You're so focused on this, and you see different cases. So you obviously your perspective will be different from, again, because for me it's like exactly, it's like, why not? Which I love.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want to package that in a bottle and be like,
I know. It's like
Yeah.
when you ask that, I'm like, wait a minute. Are there
what did
people who don't yeah, what?
yeah. Or it's a yes.
Yeah, and
Yes, there are.
actually, yes.
Yep.
But and I
Right.
agree. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think there is that unlearning that needs to happen, because you are fed constantly for a long period of time, right? That this is the right way. And, like they kind of like build these boxes of what right looks like. And you get into those boxes in different stages in your life. Your box at 16 looks different from your box at 25, but still is the box. You're supposed to be in that box because, the social, environment or setting where you are, the cultural, acceptance and patterns and traditions. And the time comes then that for us to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why? Like, I don't need a box. I'm good.
Or a rubric, right? Like,
Exactly.
there's no
Yeah.
rubric on how I do my job, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what? And it's okay because, if my box, it's not perfectly squared. It's not a perfect rectangle or whatever. It is my box. And you know what? I'm fine with the shape it has. So,
your box looks a little more like a Dr. Seuss box would look, right?
yeah, it's like, hey, how does your box look like? Honestly, I mean, I think actually goes back to self-acceptance, right? I
Mm.
think in order for you to be able to see that authenticity, and in the workplace or in any other areas of your life, it has to start from within. I don't think you can change your external view of your perspective of anything unless you have done and you have walked that journey internally with you, and you have come to the realization that I do not need a box, and all these boxes or this path that have been set out, and the notion of the preconception that for me to be what I'm supposed to be, or doing the right thing, it has to match all of this. No,
Mm.
it's okay to think differently. It's okay to not look like everyone else. It's okay to have some ideas that may not look necessarily, like everybody else's. Or it's okay that my life and what I have at this age, and it's a stage in my life that don't necessarily equate or equal to, other people. Um, but I think we have to go through that journey of like, I'm comfortable with who I am. And then you can actually also bring and share that authenticity with others, because you need to radiate that from you, that internal notion that, I've been truthful, what I have, I'm speaking my truth, basically. And you can see that. You can see that.
I love it. I have one more question for you. Before I do that, though, if people want to connect with you, interact with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, they can reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always open to grow my network. And yeah, so Maritza Gé on LinkedIn, and happy to connect with others.
All right. If you had one last tip, maybe a real tactical tip or to make work suck less for our listeners, what would it be?
I think and this is something actually that I think COVID kind of like taught us all. I think before COVID, we were living in this 9 to 5 kind of like race, and sometimes we had little time for ourselves or our mental health, and we didn't talk about mental health and wellness so much before. I mean, it's just sad to say that a global pandemic actually taught us a lesson, like, hey, stop and bring yourself, first and forefront. Um, but I have, during COVID, I learned to just block time
Mm.
to think, and to, and I just kind of like call it like the, power time, or brain power time, or time for yourself. And I'm very focused. I always have lots to do on my list. And I kind of like had this thing that if I don't finish my day until I crossed out all my items, and that would take me sometimes way after normal time. But I was committed that, I want it done, and that would make me feel good. And then I learned that you don't have to, because you are not leaving time for yourself. You start blocking time for yourself. And it doesn't have to be much time, but I go back to that, bring that mountain view, whatever you are. And I learned to do that. And I actually realized that it helps me to be more productive. It That moment of, thinking through, strategizing, taking the time to kind of like sit down for a minute, brings clarity. It helps with, decision making. You see things in a different perspective. You come up with solutions after that. So I guess my tip will be like, always make time for yourself, because you are the genius in the whole thing, in the whole this big scheme of things. So why not prioritize yourself? You have the magic with you. Make time for yourself, and things will happen, and the magic will happen.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.